Hello, this is Applewood with Path to Poverty, back to review our uh, Jayne's Tournament of Future Champions semifinal match against Skyfoxes on Ilios. So just to go ahead and jump right in here at this point, the match is 1-1. We lost a very, very close one on Numbani, and were thus unable to take them out in back-to-back maps, so they bring us to this tiebreaker map. We like to think that we're pretty decent on Ilios, but there is still quite a bit that we get to work on, and there's still quite a bit that we need to work on.
Path to Poverty also at one point, but
So go ahead and mute all this stuff. So basically, while they're paused, we can go. Okay, well, it's a prank apparently. We could talk a little bit about the different comps that the two teams are running. Hold on, I'll wait until it's unpaused so that this thing gets brighter. Here we go. And I can pause it right after they unpause. Okay. So the comp that we come out on is a triple support Sombra comp that we like to run. We think it's pretty decent and it fits our play style of being pretty aggressive as a team. The Sky Foxes, on the other hand, have come out with the Winston Goats composition. That's after the World Cup became very popular. So basically what our composition wants to do, it's a very fast-moving, hack a target, follow up, blow them up in their back line, force them to make moves, force them to be uncomfortable at pretty much every single portion of the map, utilizing our Sombra to communicate rotations whilst the rest of our team stays mostly out of sight. And then once Sombra communicates a rotation and communicates a hack and a target, the rest of our team is going to follow up on it. So for their team, they're looking to get into our back line, force us to be uncomfortable. We don't really have that much burst damage to really do anything to a main tank such as Winston. If he's able to get into our back line unmolested, yeah, our Brigida is going to bash him, and our Zenyatta is going to put a Discord orb on him, but otherwise he's going to be pretty much okay, and he should be able to get in and out, especially on a map such as Ilios, where there's a lot of geography for him to play with. And with the use of Azaria, they're going to be able to bubble the monkey into our backline, so it should be should be pretty easy for them to beat us. This composition is we're going to have to play our comp very, very well in order to counteract theirs. Another one of the issues that we have here is that we have a very set rollout for what we like to do. And you can't really see it from this angle, but we like to set up through this section and have our Sombra flank around and give us information as we move on to the point. Skyfoxes being the occasional scrim partner for us, they know this rotation from us, so they're coming in with their much beefier team and gonna stop us from setting up where we would like to be. Luckily, our Sombra calls this out, and obviously the team can see it, and we're able to rotate away from that position with our back line. But now we're in a much more uncomfortable position. We can go back. Unfortunately, our Brigida overextends here, but fortunately, it's not punished by King. They are trying to punish our Brigida throughout this entire matchup because they recognize that he finds himself out of position a few times. So what King was looking to do after our Brigida bashes their Winston is to come in and bash him and then allow them to follow up and take out that Brigida, thus opening up our backline completely. So you can see that my Brigida goes in, moves himself out of position, and fortunately they're unable to follow up on it, but it was a super, super dangerous position for us to be in initially. So we also notice here, when they're set up, so everyone on their team except for Snow has pushed into us. They have Verbo up here. They have King up here to try and make something happen where our team is grouped and we are basically while their Zenyatta sits where they had initially made their rotation onto point. Um, our diva Hot Date recognizes that all the peel has left Snow, and that Verbo, because the peel being Verbo, and the peel being King on Brigitte and Lucio, and they can't follow up, and they have just used a lot of their mobility to get over into our team, and their diva has used mobility to chase our monkey out of position. So we're able to assassinate Snow at the cost of being demeched, which is a worthwhile trade for us, but it's still unfortunate because we don't want to lose that mech, but we do end up getting both Verbo and Snow, so we've taken out most of their healing, so we should be able to clean up this fight pretty well. And Hot Date, as a baby diva, ends up killing X-Retzy anyway, so we win the initial fight after they had taken point. We cared more about the team fight than we did the point, which is generally how you should play these things. At this point, my team needs to be a lot more proactive. We need to be holding up, letting our Sombra figure out what's going on, figuring out where everybody is going, and then make our rotations based around that, whilst also poking from a distance. So if we were able to engage on them, say, right here, then that's exactly what we would want. Unfortunately, Moopy catches us out because my Zenyatta is out of position. As they rotate through this area, you can see what happens. My team rotates past the statue on the other side of point and pushes further up into closer to their spawn rather than sitting back and waiting. We're looking to get poke in here. That's what Ultraviolet is going for. He wants to hit them as they rotate, but we need him to play much, much safer because they are looking to dive our backline, and he is dive target number 1. So honestly, I would be okay with him sitting further back, letting our front line, including our Sombra, poke them out, force them into making a move. And honestly, if they never saw my Zenyatta until we had engaged or until they had used some sort of mobility to do something, I would be perfectly okay with that. Unfortunately, that's not what happens, and as you can see, Moopy gets the kill onto my Zenyatta. So we get, in turn, and this is something that happened the entire time we were facing against Skyfoxes. We were able to get very, very high value EMPs, killing off Snow pretty consistently. And this fight was won off of the back of that pick pretty generally. And of course, I go all the way back. Okay, here we are. Yeah. So Dove is able to capitalize on their healers not making the full rotation, and this is something that we caught them out doing in the first fight, and we caught them out doing in this fight as well. They're able, or our healers are more able to survive these initial aggresses. Okay, so yeah, it's actually this fight right here, not those ones up there. So Snow goes down. Initially I questioned this beat from Angelic, but I actually think it was probably the right thing to do. We would have been down. He was our last healer up. Our Zenyatta was still coming back from spawn. Our Brigitte had just been killed. So Angelic goes low and beats, even though we had just taken out both of their healers. I still, initially I thought, okay, do we really need to beat there? And I argued with myself for it for a while. But I think that it was probably the right move, or else we would have had absolutely no healing. That being said, there's the argument to be made. It's like, well, it would have been okay because Jolf had his Primal Rage. So he has a full another 1000 HP to work with. Ultraviolet hopefully was almost back, and he has Transcendence if the fight went super longer. Their only healing is King, but King was rallying, so I don't know. There's a lot to go into that decision there. I think that in the heat of the moment, obviously you don't have time to think about all of those different scenarios, and I think Angelic made the right decision, but it is something that I question just theoretically. If that fight had gone differently, what would have happened? But I can appreciate that beat from him. So let's see. So in this next fight, I believe that Ultraviolet unfortunately gets caught out of position with his ultimate. I'm not even sure he uses his ultimate. I think he just gets caught out of position. Yeah. So we're holding far forward. He gets booped out of position. That's what happens. Even though we are holding far forward. And they look to dive him every fight, so we should be playing around that. And we needed him up for the grab sustain. We should have been much more conservative with his positioning, but honestly, after that, if I remember this correctly, this fight goes pretty well for us, because they use trance right there, and we're still holding the point all this time, and we've already called that we're probably not going to use ults, but we've still got the point, and they use grav. This is a one fight from our perspective. Like, they use trance. They use grav. We're coming up on another EMP. We saved our ultimate, our Transcendence, for another fight because he died so early that it didn't matter. While we still held the point and got an extra 10, 15, 20%. So that was really, really good for us. It was, their grav, and we can look at their grav. I don't think their grav was necessary. I think that the grav was utilized. Well, that's another. I'm questioning the guys who play the game. Their grav's used, in my opinion, to finish off people who were already not that far into the fight. Yeah, they could have just cleaned us up. They probably should have just cleaned us up on the point. Just focus the point. Whatever's there, let's kill it. Not really worried about that because then they do have a team wipe ability with the Graviton Surge. But maybe they're worried about UV coming back with Trance. So they decide to utilize it to really, really do what they can. I think that's UV coming back from spawn. It looks like he might even almost be here. Yeah, so he's almost here. So maybe it was the right decision. I think that would have been smart. So I like this next fight because it shows the counterplay between Skyfoxes and us. I think it's the right play by them. It's just unfortunate because our target focus, we know what we need to kill. And you can see it happening right here, what I'm about to talk about. We know that we have EMP coming into this fight. So we're going to utilize EMP. We know they don't have Trance because they just used it the fight before. So we expect them to have Verbo's ultimate. So what we need to do and what our goal is to kill Snow before Verbo can cast his ultimate of Beat to protect Snow. So they recognize this. They're making the correct counterplay. They have Verbo sit back away from the fight where he is right now. As you can see, we're in his perspective. And he knows that he needs to be waiting to beat. He needs to beat immediately after that EMP comes out. That being said, I don't think that they are holding far enough back, even though they are on goats, where they're not holding in a more advantageous position for themselves, because they are holding at a choke, but they're spread out around this choke. So you can see Snow is here. This is Azaria. Their Brigida has somehow ended up way far forward. Their Diva's up here, and their Monkey, I believe, is right here. They're all surrounding kind of in a semicircle this area, which would be good, but against a comp that was similar to their own, but because we are running the Sombra and we have the ability to scout out and see exactly where we want to go before we go there, and because we've switched to a Rhine and have a lot more choke control with a Rhine than they do with a Winston, we're able to come back in here. We force open the space with the EMP, but I still think that we would have been okay with it. I think King should probably have been sitting next, even though the EMP was coming, he probably should have been sitting next to Snow pretty much in general. Unfortunate that he is way up here, even though he gets EMP'd either way. They need to play to control more of those corners and not so far pushed up, especially knowing that we have that EMP coming. Even if their old tracking was bad, I mean, honestly, it would have been it would have been just based on these compositions that we're showing. It was pretty obvious that we had EMP. If we didn't, if their old tracking was good and they knew we had EMP, that's what happened here. Is they knew we had EMP coming, but even if they didn't realize it initially, even if they miscalled that we had EMP or that we didn't have EMP, when Dove doesn't switch to Zarya to complete the GOATS composition, once Jolf had switched to Reinhardt, they should have realized that this EMP was coming, and it was coming in the next fight, and changed their positioning because of that. So, yeah, that's how this fight ends up going. You can see how fast Snow dies. It's not even time enough for Verbo to get off his ultimate, so it ends up losing them this fight. I mean, and that's good coordination from us, but it's also really, really unfortunate for Verbo. He made the right decision. The counterplay, our counterplay was just solid. We know how to play around that beat drop. So on this one, if they would show our positioning, I would appreciate that. Please turn. Please turn. Okay. So you can see that we are holding back. We're not holding where I would like us to hold. Let's see. Of course I click backwards and screw it up. Okay. Okay. So with what we're running now, we want to hold the choke on either side of this area because there are fewer chokes to hold. Yes, this is also a pathway that they can aggress onto us, but this position, that if we were holding this position in kind of this area and this position around here, either of these paths would be controlled by that position right here. And this path is obviously controlled by our Reinhardt right here, and then we can make rotations back and forth between those two. I would have preferred us to hold up further, have our Reinhardt kind of sitting here, or sitting over here. I know that Dove is still on Sombra, but we should be able to figure out where they're coming from even easier to hold those chokes. We have a Reinhardt, so we should be able to just keep him up even without the Zarya shield, because they don't really have the ability to burst him down like they might with a Discord and a Rhine Hammer on their team to swing through our Rhine shield. So they trance into this fight, and there's an argument to be made for when I talk about that holding those chokes, that the Winston goats, because of Winston's mobility, he's able to leap past a choke. And, okay, so I can even draw it here because this isn't a bad angle. If they come into this area where they are right now, and their Winston leaps over this and puts pressure and opens up space for his team to file in after him, because we're off trying to figure out what he's doing. We're off trying to punish him for leaping in and using mobility. So he has the ability to open those chokes up. In this, I believe that he does open this point up for his team anyway. So we trance in. Moopy jumps over at that point, but we're trancing on point. We've got it to 99, so we're trying to win this fight. King goes down super early in this fight, and at that point, we're in a good spot to win it. I can't see. Let's see. There's a lot of stuff going on the screen right now, of course. When we fall back to point, we kind of all get caught in the bowl that is point. and we are all split up. It disallows us from really being able to focus down targets in the way that we would like to, and so we trade Brigidas, basically, is what happens. Um, you know, we're able to stay in this fight because Dove, and you just saw it go off right there. Dove gets another EMP right in the middle of this fight, and he's able to get it off. And because we take away all of their ability to do anything, it allows us to win, and we just focus point after that. Honestly, if we would have had a much better time, I think that. Let's see. Ultraviolet once again pushes up way too far on his Zenyatta and decides to take what he hopes is a one-on-one with Snow, but it ends up being a two-on-one because their Zarya turns for Peel. Ultraviolet should be sitting back here, playing around this column, focusing something that's on point, or focusing something that's in front of our Reinhardt, whether it be Verbo or Zoms, or if he turned around, he could focus the hacked Winston, and we could discord that target and burn it very quickly. Unfortunately, he went a little over aggressive with his positioning. So, it's one of those things. And here, I did it again, didn't I? So Ultraviolet goes down. And Hot Date comes in. I think that he knows that they're looking for a Grav. So he's trying to eat the Grav versus killing the low health Zenyatta. So it's figuring out which one is higher value between those two things at this exact moment in time, which isn't fair. I talk about these theoretical things. It isn't really fair to the team who's making decisions in the moment. But because he doesn't kill Snow, Snow is able to is basically able to just farm us in this Grav. And him deciding not to kill Snow keeps the Discord in this fight. I honestly think that if they didn't have Discord, we win this fight. So if Hot Date was able to kill Snow instead of trying to eat the Grav, it probably would have been higher value, just because, and you can see here, Snow goes from, let's see, where does he start out? Goes from 60% when he first gets attacked by Hot Date, all the way up to his full Grav, or to his full Transcendence by the end of that. So it ends up costing us. So I think that they should have probably discorded our Rein. And this is something where we still end up winning this fight, and I think it's because they didn't discord our Rein inside of this Grav. Oh, they do discord our Rein inside of this Grav. Nope, but then he re-discords Hot Date. Okay, so if they had kept the discord on our Rein that entire time, see, even here, they could have our Rein discorded. They could be doing a ton of damage to him. Instead, Snow is the only one shooting at Hot Date, and he has got Hot Date discorded until the Grav comes up. But after that, he puts the Grav or the discord back on Hot Date's mech, and our Reinhardt is still able to do whatever he wants on point with 150 armor still on him, it looks like, and just be able to swing hammer. And because we have better AoE healing with Al on the Brigitte and with Angelic on the Lucio, our Reinhardt is in no danger of dying. Once the discord is gone, once Snow dies, there's no way they're really going to be able to burst down our Reinhardt with any efficiency, especially because we have these two healers still up. Brigitte doesn't do enough damage. Zoms on Diva doesn't do enough damage, so it's unfortunate for them. But they had the opportunity to kill our Reinhardt earlier in this fight, and they don't take advantage of it, and we end up winning because of it. My Rein gets a lot of play against them, and it wins us this fight, or it wins us this map. And from here, it's just cleanup. I generally don't look at cleanup all that often. Cleanup generally just comes down to target focus as a team, and it's really, really easy to do target focus on it as a team during cleanup because you're not really worrying about, damage and stuff such as that. You're just worrying about beating things with a hammer and killing them as fast as you can. So this map is always an interesting one. So with these two comps that we're coming out on, both of us mess up our first shields. So the first shield that everybody tries to go for, or most people try to go for when they're running this comp, you can see it's a mirror comp for us, is a shield straight from spawn. We mess up our shield from spawn. Moopy doesn't throw a shield from spawn. So either way, it's not great play from either team. Our shield, you can't really see it, but it's up here. So it landed a little weird. Usually, Jolf is pretty good about throwing his shields to be about right here from spawn, so that's a planned shield. And I think the casters even call us out, and they say, what are they doing throwing shields from spawn? They're trying to cheese it. But it's actually a play that we go for. We just mess it up. So the shield war is prolonged from both sides because of that issue, because nobody really had that great of an initial shield, and it's so important on this map. Hot Date should be holding his DM for the new shield so that we can win the shield war, but unfortunately he uses quite a bit of it right there, and it takes a long time to get all the way back up. So right here, nothing was really happening. There was really not too much of a reason for Hot Date to use his DM. I know that he was probably thinking he was protecting our backline from poke that was coming from us, but we needed that DM for when Jolf puts down his next shield. Otherwise, we're going to have a really, really hard time winning this shield war that I've been talking so much about. But we end up winning this fight, even though, so they're winning shield war at this point because of our DM usage. Right there, too. It's too much DM being used. We shouldn't use any DM. That was fine DM because it saved people from taking a lot of damage. But this shield's going to crack really fast. I think that the Skyfoxes get a really, really antsy here because they end up rotating into us. And so they leave the point control that they, because this is what point control looks like in these two things. Us trying to sit back, being very defensive, trying to maintain sights on their shield, but also not really having any sort of advantage. And then them, you can see all of them are pretty much in a good position to poke us out whatever angle we do come in on. They're able to shoot into our backline. We don't even have a shield down. All of our shields are being cracked and broken within a second. I mean, that's a lot of damage coming out from them. They would win this fight just based around that misplay on our shields and that misplay around our defense matrix. So from here, you can see, so this is, now I know why they rotate into our back, or they rotate into us. They see that Jolf goes to 1 bar of health. He has 25 health at this point. They make the decision as a group to rotate into us where they have, in leaving their point control. Oh, I guess they haven't even done it yet. Leaving their point control, so maybe that wasn't the reason that they decided to rotate into us. Yeah, it wasn't. Okay, interesting. I thought that they rotated into us at that point to look for the kill on Jolf. So, at this point, they choose to leave the point control, and they choose to leave their shield advantage to push into us. I'm thinking that they just got nervous, they got antsy, they wanted something to happen when they were at an advantage the longer this fight went on. And you can see, I mean, they're coming up on ultimates very, very quickly. Snow almost has trance. King almost has his ultimate. Xretzi's coming up on his very quickly compared to Dove. But unbeknownst to them, Angelic has been farming healing and has been able to get his ultimate up extremely fast. So when they rotate into us, notice that you'll see that they call to rotate into us right after Moopy has dropped a full new shield. So he has to wait a whole nother 6 seconds. If they had a shield, maybe they could have put it right here and won this fight. But because they chose to rotate into us at this point, they end up losing because we have a beat. And that's what happens. It's just we kind of get lucky, honestly. They could have gotten us out of there super easily. They could have utilized King's ultimate to push us out of that comfortable position, to make us, to force us onto point, to force us to rotate back away from point. They had point control that entire time. You can see that they're already at 22%, so it's not really like they needed to make a move so that they could even take the point and start getting time, because they already had time. All they had to do was wait and force us to do something. And these comps, neither of these comps is very good at doing something. They're good at standing still, poking out another comp, trying to maintain a very, very hard point with this character, and doing what we can to get picks and just output tons of damage. That's what's happened. Now, generally what you would see from the other team, once they lose the point running the Orisa composition, they would switch to something that looks a lot more like a dive composition. At least they would switch Moopy onto a Winston character on this particular map, because it's really, really hard. It's almost impossible to retake with Orisa. She is not exactly what we call high mobility. So I think that they should have had that Orisa comp. So, and because of that, we should be holding up more. When we see that they don't change, we have the ability to hold up more. But our issue is that they did get some picks in that last fight. We have to taxi those picks back from spawn. We don't want to commit into their area and not be able to get out because we don't have speed boost and they do. So this next point is one of the features of the Jolf main tank. Jolf's Orisa is a big brain Orisa. He likes these really, really creative pulls that allow us to do a lot of stuff. We've pulled people into 4-man diva bombs just because Jolf calls that he's halting and to throw diva bomb. It's just the creativity that we get with having him as a main tank. So from here you can see that we're about to big brain play this. We pull out a boop here, getting their ulting Zenyatta into the well. So Jolf runs in, places a very aggressive shield, and Angelic comes over the top and boops Snow into the well. Fight 1. I mean, you can't teach that. That's a heads up play. That's awesome. I love seeing that kind of creativity from players. So, I mean, that pull boop is super risky, but when it pays off big. And this is the environment where we wanted it to pay off. So this next fight, we're just trying to force them into uncomfortable positions. Again, we missed the opportunity to hold up. I still think that we should have been holding up and poking them out. We're unable to do that. We just don't do it. It's not that we're unable in this instance. We don't do it, and it allows them back onto the point. Luckily enough for us, we have, or they actually take point here because we weren't holding up. So that's actually not the fight that I wanted to see. That's not the fight that I thought it was. So they do hold up. You can see this is more of what I would expect from a team to be doing. Holding up here, poking us out. We do stick on the Orisa comp as well because we have the Bongo, Orisa's ultimate, and we want to utilize it. So our thing is that we need to get set up back on point. But here, they back off, they take their hard point, they have shield advantage. This would be really, really difficult for us to retake were it not for we have our Hanzo flanking around behind, and they jump to his perspective, and he uses his ultimate as we use Supercharger, and we win the fight off the back of that ultimate, just because he gets the highest value pick that he can with Moopy, and Dove is able to kill Verbo as well. But the kill on Moopy basically would seal that for us, because that's an automatic fight win with them not having a shield, right? So we clean up. This upcoming fight is last fight. The one fight where we do hold forward, and Al gets the best headshot of his life. And that's the map right there. That's all it takes. Now it's just basically clean up from here. They had 2 people down that got bursted down right as they were coming in. We had ult advantage. They had their beat, but they needed their beat to even touch point. And they just took way too much poke on the way in. And they have no shields, no anything. You can see that Moopy tries to pile drive Dove, and Dove is sitting just so perfectly behind the shield that they can do nothing about it. So this is all clean up again at that point. So I was very impressed with the guys. It was a really, really great map for us. We played it decently well. There's obviously things that we could have done differently to play better, but we played the way that we needed to, and we played to win. I wish Numbani, we had won Numbani. We like Numbani. And we had the opportunity to win Numbani, but things didn't go our way on that map, so I'm glad that we were able to bring it back. It's always great playing Skyfoxes. They're a great group of guys. I have a lot of respect for them. A lot of their players have been in the scene for a really, really long time. They're just great dudes. Their staff are good people. So it was a GG's to them all around, and we look forward to getting to play them more in the future and continuing to learn from one another. So if you have any questions, let me know. You can find my Twitter, twitter.com/Applewood. You can message me on YouTube. Just let me know if you have any of those questions. I had a great time reviewing this stuff. It's always fun to see us playing on a big stage that Jayne gives us. So thanks to him for giving the tournament. And hopefully, maybe I'll do some more of this stuff in the future. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day or whatever.